Hey, and welcome to Nocturnal Frequency Radio here on YouTube. Because I'm normally saying live on New Visions Radio Network.
Live
and
in charge.
It's exclusively on the New Visions Radio Network. No. We're simulcasting on YouTube. No, we're casting on YouTube. We're streaming on YouTube tonight. And we will be rebroadcasting the audio portion of this show Sunday night in a regular time slot on the New Visions Radio Network. So we felt that because two of our guests this evening are along the battle lines there in Europe, it's awfully late. Fred, it's what? It's after midnight there.
Yeah, it's like eight minutes past midnight, and it's way too late for me. You know that. It's I usually talk with you 3 a.m. So
that 3 a.m. is too late for you or too early for you?
I don't know.
and of course, Ben, it's just after 11 there, right?
It is indeed. It's slightly more social than the last time I was on the show, so hopefully I'll be a little more chipper than I normally am.
Well, we figured that with a lot of a lot of the listeners, we've got quite a lot of listeners over there in the UK, and we figured, with shows like this, especially having you and Fred and some of the other people like Reeves and stuff on, that maybe we would do this a little earlier on a Friday, and we could always rebroadcast it on Sunday at the regular time slot. So, and Cameron, it's great to have you back, man. It's been a long time since you've been on the show.
I know what happened. I thought I got axed or 86th or banned for life, but no, I'm back.
You're restricted. No,
I should be.
So how are things going?
Good. I'm in Montana. It's 4:09 p.m.
Oh yeah, it's really that's right.
And I kind of blew it for you guys because I normally am like have a full day ahead of me on Friday. I was thinking it's Saturday all day long, and yeah. Anyway.
And
Friday.
Guys, get your stuff out there for the viewers. I want to say listeners, but listeners later on. Cameron, we'll start with you with My Alien Life.
Well, thanks for having me. Geez, I want to say hello to everybody from, I don't know, St. George, Newfoundland to wherever, the UK. And I have Ukrainian listeners, and I'm sure they're very busy right now. And bless them. And yeah, what a weird day.
Where can we find My Alien Life podcast, man?
My Alien Life podcast is found everywhere. Listen
everywhere.
Podcast. You can find my website, www.myalienlifepodcast.com. And I'm on Instagram and Cameron Logan on Instagram, Cameron Logan on Facebook, and where else? YouTube is just, it shows up on YouTube. It's something that I don't really concentrate on because I really don't want anybody to look at me. So.
Ben, get your info out there. I mean, everybody knows about you already, but go ahead. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, for those who don't, yes, I am. My name is Ben Emlyn-Jones. I'm a former hospital porter. And I have a website called Hospital Porters Against the New World Order, HPAWO, pronounced Tapanwo. I'm also an author. I've written some ufological themed books. For example, Roswell Rising, a novel of disclosure, which is available at all good bookshops now for £10. If you go into a bookshop and you don't see it on the shelf, it's not a good bookshop. Never shop there again. And there's a sequel to that too, so it's a trilogy.
Yeah, you know what? And I got to get the second book. I really enjoyed the first book. So it's time to get the second one. Fred, get your info out there for everybody.
Join me on Twitter, Homo Satanis, or Instagram Homo Satanis, where I usually posts about weird stuff, UFOs, some art, movies. That's where I basically hang out on the internet. And as usual, as I mentioned the last time, Steve and Alex, keep your eyes open for an upcoming UFO book, a book about Swedish UFO cases. We'll see when it arrives. I'm working on it at the moment.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and because just I guess a little background on that, Fred. Like some of the research that you've done for it, you've actually been in contact with certain people that are involved with these cases. And you said something about a UFO museum. What was it again? The museum there or something?
It's the UFO archive in Norrköping. Yeah. Probably the world's biggest UFO archive with books, literature, case files, etc. It's absolutely amazing. I've never seen anything like it, and I could spend days there. Absolutely stunning project. It's been around since the 70s, but I mean, it's like the last 20 years, I would say. It's kind of grown extremely much, I reckon AFU Shop is their homepage. AFU Shop. They have a shop also. They sell books that they have more copies of. So support them.
That sounds like a cool place, and like you said, some of the stuff that you found in there that you were mentioning last show, it's pretty intriguing. I've been chomping at the bit because Ben, I'm gonna pick your brain. I know Fred's probably pretty interested, and I don't know, Cameron, if you probably know a little bit about this case too, maybe not, maybe a lot more, and that's Rendlesham. Can you sort of like give a sort of a brief synopsis and because I know you've done quite a bit of work with that too, right?
I have, yeah. I mean, I'm not one of the principal researchers into this particular event, which is, I think, one of the most significant the world has ever seen. But I'm very interested in it. I've been involved in some of its controversy, shall we say, because there is a lot of discrepancy over what happened depending on which witness you talk to. But basically, this happened in December 1980. It was actually in the early hours of Boxing Day. And a strange object was seen in a place called Rendlesham Forest, which is in Suffolk in the east of the country. And this is right next to two RAF bases called RAF Bentwaters and RAF Woodbridge, which were currently occupied by the US Air Force as guests. And this was very well documented. This whole case was documented. There were numerous witnesses among the security guards at the base, local people. There's forensic evidence in the form of several marks on the ground, marks on the trees. There's been some radiological studies of the area too. And indeed documented. There's amazing documentary evidence too in the form of a memo by Lieutenant Colonel Charles Holt, who's the deputy base commander. And what's good about this is, unlike so many ufological events, like where this sort of thing happens, research began straight away. A number of people, including Brenda Butler, Dot Street, Georgina Bruni, Jenny Randalls, immediately got on the case and spoke to some of the witnesses. And a couple of years after it happened, there was a news headline that said, "A UFO lands in Suffolk. It's official." It's a very, very famous headline in the News of the World newspaper. And since then, because the witnesses have done many interviews, they've spoken out a lot. There's been numerous books written about this. There's been all kinds of different theories to explain what happened, the various objects that were seen. There's at least two separate incidents actually within this whole case, as if there was like a flap. And we're still waiting now to get the answers, but even all these years later, we're still not 100% sure exactly what happened. It's very, very strange indeed.
That is strange. And I can understand why it's one of the more, notorious cases. And have you visited the area?
Yes, I've been there several times. It's a lovely location actually if you want to have a ramble in the woods. And there's even a UFO trail now, which I think is slightly inaccurate actually. So
yeah,
this looks like it's not exactly right. But it's pretty clear that the local authorities, the Forestry Commission, they're very keen to get involved in this particular element of their history. because of course a lot of people do come to the woods specifically because of Rendlesham Forest. I mean, they come for other reasons as well, dirt biking, horse riding, but it is I think this, to use the patronizing language of the skeptics, it is a place of pilgrimage for ufologists. And yeah, it's fair to say people go there like I did specifically for that reason. And I wandered around there at night as well, which is very spooky. It's really, really cool.
No sightings though, huh?
I didn't personally see anything strange myself, but people, people do though. People do sometimes see strange things even now.
So Cameron, are you familiar with this case at all?
Yeah, I am. And one of the things that that interests me, of course, is documentation. And I had heard that there was a Ministry of Defense file on that. Was that? Do you know anything about that? Was it covered up, or was the information made available to anybody in the UK or anywhere else in the world? And have you seen?
Well, the whole memo itself was declassified, and apart from that, I don't know. I mean, I know there's some photographs taken, which were immediately flown from the area to Supreme Allied Command Europe, which is in Germany, and was presented to somebody there. Apart from that, I don't know of any of other files. There may be some that we don't know about yet, but I know that the witnesses were all debriefed. In some cases, they were given very aggressive debriefing by guys in suits. It's the standard thing, who asked them lots of intrusive questions, warned that kept giving them warnings, things like that. So there was obviously a lot of official interest in this subject.
The Ministry of Defense supposedly had an official document on that. It was very lackluster, not a lot of detail, and it was thought that part of the document may have disappeared or been covered up, but I don't know. It's an interesting take on that.
There's the UFO desk, which is run by the Ministry of Defense. That's AS2, which famously was headed by Nick Pope for much of the time. And they did an official report on it, which I think is what you're referring to,
right,
which doesn't really give much information. I mean, there's there's a vast amount of information within the AS2 files with very little of substance. Most of it is just guys sees a light in the sky, things like that. One of my own sightings is in there as well. In fact, there is a highlights file as well, the best ones. But
what's Nick Pope's stance on it now? Like as of now, because I mean, he's obviously not a part of that. He's come out with a lot of stuff, but I mean, what's his discussion been on this case?
He regularly talks about this. Actually, he's excuse me. He regularly talks about this. It's not even late at night. And he appears on the news all the time. He's a lot of stuff, but I mean, he's the guy you got on speed dial if you're a journalist and you want anything to do with UFOs. You squeeze Nick Pope. He's the guy who sits there, but he's very unequivocal. He tends to have little catchphrases. He says, "We can't rule this out. We can't rule that out." He can be very, very encouraging and very persuasive one moment, and then be very he'll debunk things the next. He plays for the camera quite a lot. I personally don't respect his position very much. Actually, I must say I have my problems with him. His opinion is, I think, a bit dubious on many things. Although I'm willing to listen to the guy, I'm willing to hear what he has to say.
Okay, so outside Rendlesham, like another case that's sort of on that level. Is there another case on that level?
That kind of case, I don't think. Is there anything on the level of the Rendlesham Forest incidents?
Because essentially that's the UK's Roswell. More or less. Yeah,
kind of. I mean, there's no crash retrieval in that situation. Mm-hmm. However, it's often called the British Roswell, although there's no evidence that any decisive forensic evidence was obtained.
Okay.
Unlike with the Roswell incident itself. But it is it's an extraordinary event for the amount of evidence you get, things like that. I mean, it's the fact that research began straight away, and there was a lot was uncovered in the early days just after it happened, when it was fresh in people's minds, things like that. I don't know if there is another equivalent case anywhere in the world that I'm aware of, but I know of many other interesting UFO cases in Britain and abroad.
Well, we'll get into some of those, obviously, for sure. Fred, some of the cases that you've been looking into, and I know you started off with an article that you wrote on a particular case there in Sweden that was quite interesting. Did you sort of want to refresh that a little bit with the viewers?
Yeah, absolutely. I can post a direct link to the article in the chat here on YouTube.
Okay.
I'm doing it right now because there's some images there. I would consider the Vallentuna case to be one of the really, really, truly interesting UFO cases out there. It was the March 23rd, 2023, 1974 in Vallentuna, slightly north of Stockholm, where at least 40 people reported in total. I think it's around 90 different observations of a big, huge glowing object hovering, landing, sending, or maybe more, receiving some kind of light beams from the ground. It all started with a family. They were visiting the grandmother and grandfather, and they noticed in a quarry nearby that something was very brightly lit. And they went out to look, and they saw this huge craft with beams coming up from the ground into the ship. And this ship, or this craft or whatever, followed the family. They escaped from there. They got basically chased by it. And this went on for like an hour or something. And all around this neighborhood, you had very, very clear observations of this thing. This is probably the most. There were so many witnesses. The military got involved the days after. The police. Everyone was there. They actually, I found some. It's not so secret now, but I found some papers that prove that. I think it's called in English the kind of. It's not the professional militaries. It's like the. You kind of do it on the side as a hobby, but they work together with the military. What's it called?
Like security?
No. It's still military. It's like National Guard. I'm not sure what's it called in English. Anyway, they were pretending to have an exercise in the area the days after. But in secret, they were actually investigating these observations all over the area. It's still talked about. I mean, this was in 1974, and you still have witnesses coming out talking about it. You still see lights in the area. There was during the same night also an alleged abduction. It's so much material. I mean, at the UFO archive, they have like 3, thick books only with military paper and newspaper clippings, witness testimonies. Something went on there that night, and I've never personally seen a case that has so much collected material around it. Not here in Sweden. It's actually extreme, when you look at it, and very convincing. I mean, I've talked to the main witness, Hillevi, the woman, the mother in the family, and she's still today. She's over 80. She have so crisp memories from this evening, and she haven't changed her story a bit since 1974. She haven't added stuff or anything like that. She just this is what I saw. I have no idea what it was. She's a deeply religious person also, so for her it's not necessary we're talking aliens or something. It was just something she experienced there that night. But it's a fascinating case, and check out that link I posted, because it's a little rabbit hole to go into, especially if you know Swedish, because it's easier to find the information.
But the cool thing about the book that's coming out, you said it's going to be in English, right?
Yes, it will be in English, and I will go through like in chapter maybe 9-10 cases, and then I will, there will be a mention of a lot of smaller but weird cases around these also. So I'm and as I mentioned, I've written basically the book. Everything is written, and then I kind of got burned out. I wrote so intensively for a couple of weeks, so I just had to put it behind me for a while and focus on other things. So I'm really looking forward here to start fixing it in the upcoming months.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. And we'll get into a case or two from that, and because I don't want to give away too much, but sort of give a look at like a little teaser
Mm-hmm.
on what to look for. Ben, with some of the cases that you're well aware of there in the UK, what is there another one that strikes comes to mind that you'd like to?
Yeah, there is many others I could mention. And one in particular springs to mind is in the same year as Fred's case took place, 1974.
Okay.
And this took place in northeast Wales at a place called Berwyn Mountains. There was actually it began with an earthquake, a large explosion and earthquake, and in a very mountainous area of the country. And then a number of witnesses saw a strange spherical object on the ground. Literally landed on the mountainside. And this was seen from many different angles by a number of different people. And apparently later on it then lifted into the air. People also saw it lifting into the air, another set of witnesses. And there was a lot of things that Fred describes happened. There was strange people turned up at the village, the local villages. It was in a rural area, very remote, and asked people lots of questions, things like that. And that to me is very, very interesting. It's a very interesting case. Some of the witnesses have now gone quiet. They're not speaking to anyone for some reason. Very odd.
And always a small little village, in the middle of nowhere.
Just like the Swedish case here.
Yeah, just and trying to get some like photos and stuff like that to sort of back it up, or bring more intrigue to it. But I mean, what kind of documentation was taken for that? Any at all?
The British Geological Survey registered an earthquake. What's very interesting is that they said the epicenter of the earthquake, they managed to chart in terms of depth as well. And the depth was actually above the ground. So that they're essentially admitting that this wasn't a normal earthquake. On the subject of the UFO events happening to take place in rural areas, it's interesting if you look at a population density map of the Earth, how many people live so many places. And I tend to think of the Earth as a very crowded place because I live in a city. And I suppose I tend to project that out to the rest of the world. But if you look at a population density map of the Earth, you'll see something interesting. You'll see, first of all, that only about 30% of the Earth's surface is covered by land. All the rest is underwater, under the sea. Of that 30%, about half of that is almost completely uninhabited. It consists of deserts, the polar caps, places which are just remote out of the area. There's no, for whatever reason, humans have never settled in those areas.
You could include Canada in that too.
I was going to say Canada is one of the actual most least densely populated. Yeah. I know you have a population of 35 million, but most of those live in the south near the US border. But go further north and you find hardly anyone. There's a few Indians maybe in remote settlements. So Well, if something's coming from space, it's more than likely it's going to. It's very likely to end up in a place where there's not many people around. Now, UFOs do appear in crowded areas. There's some very, very interesting cases from urban environments, but it's no surprise when if you consider something that's actually coming from space.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it actually supports the extraterrestrial hypothesis, I think. You're going to see a lot of very interesting cases in areas where there's not many people about. They probably appear in places where there's nobody quite regularly and no one ever sees them.
So let me ask you both your take on, the percentage between, these incidents or crafts being extraterrestrial or some sort of secret technology that is man-made. I mean, what do you guys think about the difference in the percentage there?
Can I come there first? Is that all right, Trevor? I've just been talking to a guy called Darcy Weir. I interviewed him on my show.
Yeah.
And this very topic came up because he believes that some UFO sightings, which appear very, very clear close encounters, do not relate to extraterrestrial activity, but actually to secret aircraft built by the government, by corporations. And that doesn't explain all UFO sightings by far, but it's a very interesting idea.
Mm. What about you, Fred? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I belong to the woo-woo camp here. I have a very esoteric view on UFOs and these kind of experience, kind of non-physical / physical experience that's connected to your own or other consciousness. I'm less interested in the idea of secret technology and ETs. I think there's something bigger, wider, more insane actually than we can imagine.
And so could it be the metaphysical?
Yeah. For me, at least,
unseen world.
And I mean, I don't think that's so uncommon that one believes that. I mean, I know a lot of who have the same view, and I've been, as you all, I've been reading and researching about this stuff since I was a kid, and for me, I always end up in the same camp as Jacques Vallée or John Keel or the Heist Rangers mumbo jumbo part of it. I feel more comfortable in it.
No, I agree, because I mean, when you look at some of these cases, that's sort of, because I mean, let's face it, Ben. We really don't know a lot about what's going on with these.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open to the idea that Fred was talking about myself. I'm open to the idea. I've read John Keel, The Mothman Prophecies, which, what's interesting about that is you get this high strangeness, which is that not only do you see objects, which obviously have a physical presence, you have beings that have a physical presence, but there does seem to be some connection to, for example, mindfulness. It's almost like they do have the ability to change the way you think and feel. It's as if they are coming through from some other world, some parallel. The idea of a parallel universe, I'm completely open to that. And this has been reported by other witnesses, for example, David Fravor, the pilot, who most recently became famous for seeing the UAPs, the Tic Tac and things like that. He did say that at one point, he did feel at one point that whatever they were dealing with, the phenomenon, had some ability, some psychic ability. He didn't use that word, but he said they knew where they were heading. There was like a location where the planes were going to rendezvous. No one knew that outside the people organising the exercise that the fleet was involved in. Yet, he said that these objects apparently seem to know where they were going. How could they have done that?
I mean, the idea, the thought that we're the only intelligent being in this universe is just, to me, is ignorant, is ludicrous. And we really simply don't know what's out there, and how they're able to sort of here we're used to carbon-based sort of scenarios. Now, what if these beings aren't carbon-based and they have this, as sort of alluding to how Fred was saying, they have this sort of, telepathic sort of energy transfer, communicative sort of method of screwing with our brains, if you will, patching into our brains and saying, look it, we're here, but we're projecting something that seems a little bit more feasible, or something that's a little bit more less extreme to your sort of our appearance, if you will.
You know that a lot of witnesses are people that have contact experiences. Sometimes they have conversations with the aliens with the way we are, but many report that there's actually there's a mind-to-mind communication.
What do you think, Fred? Is this something that this is possibly, like, you always hear they're here already. They've been here for years. And
I have this idea that what we're dealing with is kind of like Earth, Wind, and Fire. It's something so completely natural. It's like a natural phenomenon. It's like a natural force of some kind. So I mean, it's something that's there, and it's triggered by us, and we're triggered by it, and it kind of just reacts to our minds. Now I'm really, sorry, I'm really doing mumbo jumbo here, but it's
no worse than me. Come on.
So it's more reaction-based phenomena somehow, and not. Okay, I know this is silly among friends like you here, but it doesn't even need to have some kind of intelligence. It just happens. It's just it's just there. I can't describe it better.
So let me sort of. So it's to them it's a normality.
Yeah, but it's like it's like breathing. It's like what happens in the phenomena. It's not weird. It just is. It's like when you knock on wood and you hear an echo or something. It's just there. It's just there, and there's no purpose with it really. It's just except maybe play with us or okay, I should stop here because I'm it's getting too. I need to one day write this down, maybe in this book. Ben, can I ask you a question, by the way?
Go for
it. Regarding the Rendlesham Forest, I'm going back there a little bit. I need to ask before it disappears.
Go for it.
I've read quite a little bit about it, not as much as you, obviously. Once upon a time, I heard an interview. Someone mentioned that one of the first witnesses that entered the scene described the forest as almost like a fairy tale environment, like a fantasy forest, like something otherworldly. At least I'm just making up words that will describe this. I've never really been able to trace down where I heard this or read this, but I'm so fascinated by that detail. I'm sure I heard someone mention it because this feels to me that it could point that Rendlesham Forest incident had to do something with some kind of acid experiment, LSD or psilocybin, or because that's the effect you get if you take psilocybin or LSD and go into a forest. You will perceive it as like Lord of the Rings, basically. I'm just have you, I mean, we all heard of the LSD theory, but I don't know. What's your take on this?
Well, the forest itself is very charming. It's huge. It's about, I think it's about 300 acres, and it's consists of Corsican pines, and there's pathways between them. It's very charming. It's near the seaside. There are reports of strange things going on there dating back a long way. For example, in 1880, the East Anglian Times reported the village of Ake, which is nearby. Somebody saw a glowing ball of light floating through the woods, which is very similar to what Colonel Holt saw. As for, I mean, I know there are people who go there and they trip out on a drug or something. I've never taken a substance in the woods. I don't know anyone who has, although it's an interesting thing to do. As for the witnesses, I mean, the witnesses were security guards of the U.S. Air Force, and they were on duty. They would not have been consuming anything like that.
But I mean, if there were, they unknowingly had gotten this substance in them as a military experiment, you know, like something like that. Yeah.
Oh, you mean that because this has been? I know this was done. Now that some military personnel were given drugs non-consensually. Yeah, there was lots of tests done. I mean, for example, I know that this was done on prisoners of war in the Korean War. Some of them were Americans, and indeed there was a program called MK Ultra in the United States that did this.
Yeah.
It's unlikely that these men would have been affected. Would have been partly because I suppose they were on duty and they were armed. They had live ammunition with them in their weapons, and this was an active Cold War base involving tactical nuclear weapons. I doubt if any kind of experiment would have used these particular men as guinea pigs. I can't prove that. I can't prove that's the case, but it seems very unlikely.
Yeah, but when you mention it, yeah, absolutely, it sounds logical. You know, I'm sure experiments have been done. I mean, it has been done, but yeah, in this circumstance, on this location, and with you know armed soldiers, it might be probably very unlikely that they've given them LSD or any other kind of psychedelic drug. So yeah, but thank you. I just wanted to hear your input on it.
Having said that, though, I should point out that two of the witnesses report that during the debriefing they felt ill and they experienced some kind of medical problem, which indicates they were poisoned in some way.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's Larry Warren, Adrian Bustinza, the two witnesses. Yeah. So that's, I think, it could be that they were given something afterwards for something. Don't know what.
So okay, so let's put that's interesting. So let's put this into actual accounts of encounters with UFOs or something. Is that a possibility that some of these people might have been in that state without even knowing it?
Well, I have friends in the UK, for example, who have used, for example, psilocybin and had experiences. I mean, when you use psilocybin or LSD, it's not. I mean, you have this idea that you see, you know, pink elephants and you see hallucinations, you know, like physical things basically appearing in front of you, but that's not so common, especially on psilocybin. It's just the environment that change. You won't see a UFO. I mean, that's not how it works. But I remember the author researcher Adam Greitly who actually mentioned that he and a friend were on some kind of acid and saw a huge UFO coming over them many years back. And he jokingly brings this up sometime because he's not entirely sure what happened, but he saw something very, very clear when they were on this substance. And I personally think, as a slightly experienced gentleman when it comes to things like this, that this can open up your consciousness to experiences that might be things like this. But, you know, it's not scientific, so I don't know.
It's funny, you know, you say that because I read a book by Terence McKenna. I can't remember the title, but it's a story which I think it was 1970. He and Dennis, his brother, went into the Amazon to investigate native Amazonian pharmacology, because they were involved in that in pharmacy, in the pharmacological world, chemistry and things like that. And they did experiment with ayahuasca, I believe, the native Amazonian drug. And Terence says, yeah, they saw a flying saucer flying over the jungle and things like that. And another guy is Bill Hicks, who's a famous comedian, but he was also a keen psychonaut. He used to take LSD and several other substances. He reports seeing a landing of a craft and indeed going on board and meeting aliens. I mean, this is very, very interesting indeed. I don't believe, of course, the skeptic would say, well, these are hallucinations caused by the drug. However, it's more accurate, I think, to say that the drug simply alters perception to allow one to see something which does have objective reality. And the reason I say that is because different witnesses report the same things. Now, these are people from very, very different cultures. For example, the Amazon Indians report seeing the same kind of aliens and the same kind of craft that Bill Hicks did. Bill Hicks would come from Texas. So there's only two possibilities here. Either that the human brain is hardwired to produce certain images under certain states of consciousness, which itself requires fantastic explanation of why, or, and I think it's far more likely, that the visions are actually objectively real, and the drug allows those visions to take place, when normally these objective physical things would not be visible to us, because we don't have that state of consciousness.
It seems like we're having some issues with Skype again.
Why? What's going on?
Where's Cameron?
Cameron had to leave. He had an emergency there. My device, for some reason, is my cam is.
Are you frozen, Steve?
Yeah,
I'm all
hear
frozen.
You.
Yeah,
I can hear you, but you're
That's okay. You got a perfect still image of you right now.
Yeah, he looks so peaceful.
He looks like he's done some drugs.
Most of the time it happens something like that, yeah.
I have no idea why he keeps doing that. I have no idea. You know, and it just seems to happen with Skype, you know. But the wonderful thing is, if I choose to restart this, I don't know, it's gonna affect this, right, Fred? Fred, see, Fred's in the
consciousness.
The consciousness,
yeah. You could probably do it. I don't have to stop the stream, but we can do it on break.
Well, you know what? Let's take a break now.
Oh, okay.
And let's take a quick break, and when we come back, let's talk about some more cases with Fred and Ben. Unfortunately, Cam had to leave due to a thing that's arisen there, unfortunately. So I don't know if he'll be back with us this evening. So it's unfortunate. But guys, do check out his podcast, My Alien Life. If you have not checked it out, it's amazing. He's had quite a lot of people on from the UFO community on the show. So very interesting podcast. In fact, I think, I'm on there. I'm going to be a guest. Woohoo! Coming up in March.
You're going to be a guest? No, his podcast is going to start to tank after that.
Well, yeah, probably. But hey, if we have any more issues like this, you may not get me on there anyways. All right, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll go get into more stories. Thanks everybody for joining us in chat. Before we go, let's just mention Crazy John's in there. Hey, Crazy John. Jeremy, good to see you. Sab, how are you? John Doe, #1 fan, how are you? Look at my frozen image there. I look so intrigued.
No, you look constipated.
Oh god. All right. Well, we'll be right back, and hopefully when we're back, we won't have any more issues with this. All right. And welcome back to Nocturnal Frequency Radio. Well, not so much radio tonight, but I want to apologize. We had to take an extra long break because of more Skype technical issues. I think what it is it maybe the aliens are screwing with us. We've been hijacked. It was high on their importance level to disrupt this broadcast, that we were going to spill some important information or something that they didn't want people to know. Oh, I wish, right? If we only had that kind of information, oh man. Oh, okay. So let's get back into this. Ben, has there been a case that's come across your desk that that to this day you're like, okay, I just don't get it. This is just.
Oh, there's several actually. There's several strange things. That,
yeah.
I mean, it's hard to know where to start. I mean, there was an incident in Nottinghamshire in 1987, which I found out about because I had a partner in there. I was had a girlfriend who lived in the area, and I spent a lot of time there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's only when I started talking to local people I came across an amazing story, which when I looked into it, really seemed to hold a lot of water. And some local researchers had actually picked up on this and had been doing research because they lived in the area. And I did think to myself, why is this not more famous? What happened was there was some kind of landing. There was a landing or crash, and there was a cover-up. It's very similar to the Roswell incident. Mm-hmm. This happened near Mansfield, near Nottingham, mm-hmm. in which an object of some kind did come down onto the ground at a place called Thieves Wood, and it took off again apparently, and then landed at a place called Annesley Hall, which is like a derelict building from a long time ago, a very, very old-fashioned building which is derelict. And according to the two local ufologists, Nigel Crowley and Daniel Bostock, mm-hmm. There were basically roadblocks on every road. The police were there, the army, there were helicopters all over the place for mm-hmm. about a week. And when they opened it up again, when these roadblocks went away, a huge area of the forest had been cleared. For example, the trees had been cut down, the topsoil had been dug up. I actually went to this location, and there's absolutely no doubt there is a gap in the trees, which is quite large. It's a couple of acres, and there appears to be sand there. A large amount of sand has been dumped there. It's very, very strange indeed. So
dumped, or maybe there was a huge, like an intense sort of heat that maybe caused things to turn into sand, perhaps, maybe?
I'm not sure if it's vitrified soil in some way. I don't know if sand can be created that way. Like the kind of sand I saw could be created basically through vitrification. I don't know. There was apparently a fire there. There was a fire in the woods. The presence of this object called fire. Yeah. There are large numbers of local witnesses. It was reported in Nexus magazine actually in 1997.
Did you? Okay, so you went there. Now, did you take any sort of like a Geiger meter or anything like that to sort of take any readings that perhaps maybe, maybe they thought there was, say radiation or something that was, causing sort of a disruption or maybe posing danger
to have this?
No.
I suppose I don't have that kind of equipment. I don't really know how to use it. I suppose what I'd like to do is what I did try to do, and I know Nigel is trying to do this, is get some kind of funding for a more thorough investigation of the area. Now, the Annesley Hall site is actually on private property. You can't actually get to it. And security has got very tight. Apparently, security has got very tight since this happened. Poachers used to be able to sneak in there and fish in the local lake, in the grounds. They can't do that anymore because their security is very tight. But the Thieves Wood site is open to the public, so it could be, it could be investigated. That's an idea.
Okay.
Doing that would be an idea. But there would still be an effect after all this time, I'm not sure.
Well, that'd be interesting.
Background radiation,
yeah. How about you, Fred? Now, the cases that you're covering in the book, I mean, is there one that you would love to sort of share and talk about that's really intriguing to you personally?
Well,
I'm sure they're all intriguing to you, but
yeah, there's a bunch of them actually. let's see now. Last time I was on the show, I talked about the levitating boxes. I think there was I talk about? Yeah, it's a very weird case from 1969 where a man saw a huge ship, like 150 meters in diameter, who landed outside his workplace, basically. And you had these floating boxes who came into his workplace and, checked out his equipment there. But there is actually a very highly intriguing crash in 1999 in Backsjön, the Buck Lake, where a family, 3 or 4 people, saw an object very, very clearly fly over their cabin where they were staying and crashed down into the lake. They could describe it pretty, it was kind of like some kind of smaller vehicle. Could have been, if you look at it, outside the UFO realm, it could have been some kind of rocket or early drone or something like that. But this was in 1999. Anyway, it came crashing down pretty violently into the lake, and it caused such ruckus. So, the military showed up. They spent weeks combing the lake for this object. And some witnesses claim that the military actually found whatever crashed into the lake and brought it, somewhere else. But the military themselves denies this. Lots of things have been written about this case, and it's rooted in some kind of reality, because we always had these sightings of ghost rockets here in Sweden and crashes of ghost rockets into lakes. But this one is so new and has so reliable witnesses, and we don't know what it was that crashed into that lake. It's not a especially weird case, I understand, but it's a very convincing case that something.
Now, when you say ghost rockets,
yeah,
go into that a little bit.
It's actually, I would say it's a longer story than that. But in 1946, there were like hundreds and hundreds upon witness reports of rocket-like crafts flying over Sweden, a bunch of them crashing into lakes, often in the north of Sweden. Mm-hmm. This was seen by everyone, from militaries to just normal people. It was a huge thing at the time. But as UFOs, as alien UFOs wasn't really a thing in Sweden, so people, what they saw was rockets, weird rockets crashing. Before that, in 1936-37, Sweden, people all over Sweden saw ghost airplanes flying and landing and stuff. And then in the 80s, we had submarines. Everyone saw submarines that you couldn't find any proof of them. And recently we had a drone, lots of drone sightings around nuclear facilities here in Sweden. So it's kind of, for me, it's like the same thing, just, all connected to, troublesome times, and lots and lots of witness reports. But the ghost rockets, that's, in all books I read by Jacques Vallée, he's mentioning the ghost rockets. So it's kind of legendary case in ufology, and it is interesting. It is interesting. There is some something was flying there. There was a crash actually in the 80s also by one of those things in a lake up in north of Sweden, where they actually been up there trying to find it a couple of years ago, but the lake was too muddy and too deep, so they couldn't really trace anything there. But well, I'm just talking here, but there's there's so much more. There's this. I can tell you this is a tiny case from, I think it was 1977, also from north of Sweden, where a man who lived out in nowhere, quite rational, low-key man. He was going home on a, think you call it a kick sled or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. And he sees two, what he describes as boys coming towards him on the road. And beside them, they have like a round box, a circular flat box, like 2 meters in diameter. And he's like, what is this? What are they doing? And they kind of go along the road towards him. And suddenly these two boys from each side jump into this flat circular box, and the box flies right up and disappear into space. And it's such a weird little case. And this man, he wasn't a person who made things up. He was just a normal dude, living far out. But it's just so strange,
That's intriguing, Ben. Like, have you had any cases that smaller mysterious objects showing some sort of intelligence appearing and sort of just taken off, so to speak?
I've not heard of those. No, I mean, I've heard of the ghost rockets. In fact, I saw Klaas Svahn, the famous Swedish ufologist, do a lecture at before. And Fred, I thought you might have heard of him, yeah. And he mentioned something that crashed in a lake, and it may have been the same, one of the two cases you mentioned about some strange objects crashing in a lake, and how very often there are expeditions all the time that go there trying to find it. But it's very difficult because, as you say, the water's muddy, it's very deep, and finding things, to find something in a lake like that, you need lots of boats with sonar and things like that. And no one will invest that kind of resources into that kind of expedition. But he mentioned, for example, that the ghost rockets began quite early on. For example, I think it was 1930. There was an incident where the Army Air Corps, so the flyers, the pilots, were deployed, and they had to take off and intercept something. Someone saw something, so they sent these planes up to investigate. And this apparently is the first example in history of an aerial interception, although they're far more common now, because that was the first example in 1930 of an aerial interception. That happened in Sweden. And the term ghost rocket apparently comes from there. But when they describe ghost rockets, it's pretty clear they're talking about the same kinds of, the descriptions fit. Very often they're sort of elongated, like ovoid or cigar-shaped objects. But they're not rockets. They don't have, they're not rockets as such. That's just a name that they were given. So rather like Foo Fighters,
Yeah.
Because, for example, the term the British military used in World War II was Foo Fighters, and what they describe is simply the same thing that David Fravor describes. There's sometimes brightly lit large objects of different sizes that were accompanying the aircraft, used to fly alongside them, could outmaneuver them, everything like that. So it seems to be some kind of perennial phenomenon. I can't find a beginning to it. I've been trying to look back in history to find out where this all began, and to be honest, I can't. I mean, there are very, very old cases indeed, even from the ancient world. The Book of Ezekiel in the Bible sounds to me, if it's in through modern eyes, like a UFO incident. That was written over 2,000 years ago.
Couldn't you say that the famous what was it, in 1897? It was this airship wave, for example, could be, because it's kind of similar also, lots of witness reports, probably some hoaxes there, but a lot of quite reliable ones, and also something that was so connected to the time itself. to the era with the people hearing about the airships, and then they see airships in the 40s in Sweden and 30s they saw rockets. There's something that here's what I'm coming back to, that it's so connected to our own perception of reality. So we see what what our brain makes us see.
Okay.
Maybe. I mean from the 40s and 50s, people started to see classic UFOs, the disc-shaped objects, because you had all these science fiction movies that push this design. So that was what people saw. I feel personally that it's very, very connected to the time when we're seeing these things. It's part of our culture. But what do I know? I'm just a simple Swedish guy.
That's interesting you put it that way, because I do think that the terminology people use is obviously part of the culture they live in. So in the past, people used different terminology than they do now. For example, the word UFO actually, or the acronym unidentified flying object, it only goes back to the Robertson panels. That's 1952. Before then, it didn't exist. People talked about flying saucers because of Kenneth Arnold used the term flying saucers, but that was from 1947. Now, before then, the term flying saucer didn't exist, and people would use words like airship. I mean, airship seems to me a perfectly reasonable thing for someone in the late 19th century to say, because the airships were the kind of aircraft they had at the time. Most of them were just balloons or powered balloons and things like that. The first airplane, I think, flew in 1903. Before then, it was just balloons and the airships, the blimps, as they're called in the United States.
What was
same
it?
with ghost rockets. Ghost rockets is another example.
What were the, in fact, even in ancient India, perhaps, ancient India has documentation of some sort of visitation from highly intelligent beings as well. Have they not?
Yeah.
That's well documented.
In the Vedas, which is some of the oldest stories ever written, have been recorded. The classic text of ancient India. They talk about something called the Vimana. Mm-hmm. And there are several of these Vimanas. Vimanas are craft which are just carry the gods through the air, and they're described in quite detail. There's some pictures of them and things like that. They're sort of conical in shape. They're said to run off. Mercury is often. Some of them are said to run off mercury, which is very interesting because they use it as a fuel. Because apparently the Wenceslas mine and the Nazis in World War II were using mercury to power their craft, the thing they were designing. I heard.
Wow. Wow, that's interesting. So what are we talking about? The Nazi bells? Nazi bell ships, yeah.
Mercury was involved in that, yeah.
And those, speaking of that was sort of leaked into, was it not leaked into NASA when a lot of the scientists paperclip came over here? Was that not leaked into the space program?
There's a connection with Operation Paperclip through Werner von Braun and his associates, because he was the one who designed the rockets of the early American space program for NASA. Including the Apollo rockets. And these were based on the V-2 missile, which is a ballistic missile that was built by the Nazis to attack London and cities in England during the war. It's an absolutely devastating weapon.
Mm-hmm.
As for the more sophisticated sort of projects involving esoteric propulsion systems, free energy, anti-gravity, Werner von Braun, I don't know if Werner von Braun was involved in that. I know that there's a guy called Hans Kammler who was allegedly involved in this. He was a general in the SS and a scientist, and he was the guy who ran a laboratory in the Wenceslas mine in what is today the Czech Republic. And the location, you can't get to it. It's been basically the entrance tunnel was destroyed. There's something down there, but it's buried. Yeah, he disappeared at the end of the war, and a lot of them did. A lot of these scientists did disappear. They were never accounted for. There's lots of rumors and reports that they did end up working. They moved over to the United States, to Britain, to the Soviet Union, and continued working for. Well, they were essentially captured. They were essentially prisoners, and they had to take on assumed names. So they were given different identities and carried on their work in those countries. And there's a rumor that happened that the camera did that.
But the technology itself was so advanced for its time, and the thought was that perhaps there was some sort of alien sort of technology that was behind that all.
And there was allegedly a UFO crash in 1936 in Bavaria, which I don't have all the details to hand. Also, they were very, very keen, the Nazis, on the occult and esoteric things. For example, they employed a medium called Sylvia Ortiz, who apparently was in contact with creatures from another world, who give her information. And there's a guy, Heinrich Himmler, the head of the SS, was very keen. He was very keen on spiritualism, on witchcraft, and on magic of various kinds. And they used this, you see, as they weaponized it. This was long before, for example, the remote viewing programs in the United States. This was long before that.
Yeah. Wow.
A lot of interesting stories associated with that.
There is. There's a lot with that, and it just it kind of makes you think about the ties and how the sort of evolution of that technology sort of really how it really moved along. Fred, have you ever had an experience with a UFO? I can't remember if I've asked you that.
No, I have not. No. The thing is, I'm my main interest when it comes to all these fringe things is UFOs, but I never had any true experience. No, I though had experiences with what people would call ghosts and stuff like that. And I'm quite skeptical about ghosts and this whole thing, But I had some experience there, which is like, wow, what's going on, But I almost all summers I'm spending outside in nature, looking at the sky, and one day I will see something. I hope so. Actually, I think I mentioned it's a little bit weird thing that happened a couple of years ago. Last time we spoke, where we were out barbecuing in the forest near a field.
Yeah, that's right.
And we saw a huge kind of a ring of light, a circle of light out on a field. But that I would say is the closest thing to an experience I've ever had.
Now, Ben, you mentioned that you had an experience there briefly.
Oh, did I? What did I say? I have had strange things happen to me. For example, I've seen strange things in the sky. I reckon. Okay. But I've not had a close encounter that I remember. I mean, I do. I think I might have mentioned on a previous show that I've got an implant.
You have an implant?
No memory. Yeah.
Wait. Hold back up here. Come on. You slipped that one in there. Come on.
Well, I've got.
Okay, so I want to know more about this. Okay, so you had a scan and you have an implant. You had. You still have it?
I had a scan a few years ago, and there's apparently an object in my upper left arm, and I noticed there was a strange mark on my skin, and it's still there. Strange. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. There's a circular mark with some dots in on my skin, and I wondered what that was. It appeared on my skin, and I wonder what it was. And I did have a scan at a conference, and there was apparently it's given out an 8 megahertz pulse, and it's also got an electromagnetic field. But I just don't. I haven't done anything about it really, because I've got no memory of any experience that would lead me to believe that it happened. I know there's people who do. I mean, people who a lot of people who have these things have regular contact experiences which they remember. I don't. I have seen things in the sky I can't explain, but.
So you have no recollection of perhaps being abducted or loss of time or anything like that? That is wow.
Very strange, that, yeah.
That is and I thought Alex's burrito fetish was strange. Wow.
Yeah.
I've seen weird things.
That's more paranormal.
Yeah.
Right. I've seen it done at times, I think. It's strange.
So okay, so how long have you had this object that you know of?
I just noticed that, I think it was around like 2014, I noticed there was this mark on my skin, and that's when I got the scan done. It's very, I was weird. I have to go into this like tent. He's got this tent which has got copper wire in it, and you sit. I've got to take everything metal. I've got to take out of my pockets, and then he runs this. It's like the ones they use for airport security over you. There's 3 of them. There's a metal detector, electromagnetic pulse detector, and electromagnetic field detector. And you got positive readings on 2 of those. They did it over my whole body, and not just my arm. And it was my arm where the strength, where the scanners were activated. So I don't know exactly. I don't know exactly what it is or how it got there. I can't exactly go to my doctor and get a scan.
Yeah, I've got something. I've got an implant in my arm. Can you take it out? What are you talking about?
Yeah, refer me to the psychiatric clinic. You wouldn't send me to X-ray or anything. I mean, I think if it's not affecting my life, it doesn't bother me that much. Besides which, I don't know if you've ever seen Patient 17. Interesting film, that.
Oh yeah, by Corbel.
Yeah, and there's and I know someone who had one of these things in her. She had something in her nose, and she had it removed. Now, like I said, she couldn't go to her GP about it. You can't go to your doctor and talk about this. But she went all the way to Greece and had a private operation that cost her £2,000 and had the implant removed. She had an X-ray. It was definitely gone. But then a couple of weeks later, she had a abduction experience, and next time she checked, it had been replaced. Oh. Basically, whatever put it in there said, no, we want you to have one in there. If you take it out, we'll just put another one in there. So it's a bit of a waste, that. So getting them removed is not always. You can have them removed. I mean, there's Dr. Roger Lear. He's gone now, but there are surgeons who will do it. I mean, Lear is not the only one.
Punches in chat goes, he's got ringworm. And John Doe goes, Ben Emlyn-Jones is a walking 5G antenna.
Oh dear, if you come close enough to me, you can pick up Radio Luxembourg.
So I have to ask, and this is going to be a very crass, but what happens if you get an erection? Does it extend the signal?
Leave it to Fred. I mean, Fred.
That is something I've never tested.
Sorry, Fred. You're apparently the ringleader, remember, Fred? So
yeah, that's it.
Ben, I like that you're so chill about this implant. I mean, it's like if it doesn't bother me or whatever, it's kind of.
I've had a few years to get used to the idea, and it doesn't bother me particularly.
When you first found out, though, I mean, what were your initial thoughts? Have you seen the scan itself, like the scan of the object? Have you seen the object?
I've never had it imaged. The scan was an electromagnetic field detector and an electromagnetic pulse detector.
Okay.
I also had there was also a metal detector put over me, but that was negative. I was quite shocked, to be honest. I was quite astonished, and I thought, how did that get there? What is it? How did it get there? Then a lady I know did. She's a psychic medium, and she did. I felt a bit better because she doused me. That is, she gave me a kind of reading, and she said it's nothing to worry about. She told me it's nothing to worry about.
But remind me. I don't think I'd want to fly with you because what if, like, for some odd reason out of the blue, these creators of this object you have in your arm decide to use it, and I don't know.
This is in question. I mean, what are they for? I mean,
yeah.
What are they for? I mean, in Patient 17, they asked that question. What the hell are they? Because I mean, they don't appear to be any conventional electronic device. They appear to be made out of mysterious metallic alloys. They often have a ceramic coating. Oddly enough, they don't respond to the immune reaction. For example, unlike a splinter, for example, if the area around the splinter will swell up. If you have a splinter, it'll be painful. This doesn't. These things don't. Now they've been tested, and what's interesting about the test that's been done on the ones that have been removed is they have an isotopic ratio which indicates they don't come from the Earth. So the skeptics say, well, obviously someone got a splinter, a bit of meteorite as a splinter. They'll say anything, that's really stretching it.
I was hit by an asteroid, and
are they tags of some kind? I mean, are they tags? Are they there to control you in some way? I don't know. It's just really weird.
That's interesting because, I mean, Ben, you might not be the only person that obviously, all of a sudden a implant shows up in their body somewhere.
Well, you see, I don't know anyone else who has this mark. There's no scar there, and a lot of them actually don't do. They see a lot of them don't appear to have been inserted surgically. Some people have them in the middle of their eyeballs or even inside their brain.
The eyeball.
In places where you can't, they can't have been inserted surgically using conventional surgical methods. I mean, the most common place is the hands and feet. That's the most common locations. But people do have them in places where, how you ask yourself, well, how the hell could they have got in there? If someone put something in there, know about it. There'd be a scar. They'd probably injure you, badly.
Well, I mean, kind of leads you to think that, people who have sort of visitations, if you will, while they're sleeping. And we're talking about extraterrestrial or alien visitation, or an experience that had led them to believe it was extraterrestrial or alien in origin. That perhaps when we're in our, REM state or whatever, we're sleeping or whatever, that maybe that is when it takes place.
It's hard to know. I mean, when people report these experiences, some report being taken from their beds at night. Others report having these encounters when they're wide awake in the middle of the day. The skeptics tend to put this down to sleep paralysis, which is a phenomenon which I actually suffer from. I actually get this. It's quite common, and I get it. About once a month, I wake up and I can't move. I can open my eyes, but I can't move my body. And I look around myself, and and then I just wake up after a while. Every so often, though, I do see strange figures in the room. I see a guy with a big black hooded cloak and things like that. But the alien abduction experience is not sleep paralysis. Andrew Hogan at the Birmingham University did a study on that, which goes through the differences between sleep paralysis and the alien abduction experience, and they are distinct.
Wow, that was definitely a curveball, Ben.
Oh, sir.
I honestly, I don't remember you mentioning that on the show before.
I thought I had. I mean,
maybe you did, and it just flew right by me. But I think I would have picked up on that.
I'm quite blasé about it. I know, and I've sort of just got used to the idea of it. It's happened. I found out about this a long time ago, and I've not done anything about it. I've just left it.
Wow, that's. I don't know. I'd probably want to know more. But that's me, obviously. It might not be affecting my life, but damn it, what the hell? How did it get there? What is it? Take it out. Maybe. But that's the question, though, Ben. Would you be risking? Would it be high risk to take it out?
Well, I suppose deep down, maybe I'm afraid of what I might find out. I mean, my life is complicated enough as it is, and I suppose I'm maybe deep down I'm thinking to myself, well, what if I find out what it is and it's not good news and it's something scary, you know? I mean, I know that sounds a bit cowardly, and I'm sorry about that, but
obviously, right? I mean, people are like that.
It's not a decision I've made. It's just a kind of it's a kind of negative thing. I just haven't, maybe by my inaction, it's come about, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's yeah. Fred, do you have an implant?
No, I not what I know. But I had a period where I had a lot of sleep paralysis, but I didn't have any, scary things. No black figures in the corners looking at me. But I remember the most vivid one was that I was laying in bed and I couldn't move, and I was clearly awake, and I looked around, and suddenly I saw one of our cats levitating above me. Yeah, levitate. And I felt like, wow, this is so nice. It was, because it was, and it
was relaxing, right?
Yeah, he was just flying there, levitating above me and disappeared. And afterwards, I've been thinking maybe I was tapping into her dreams. Maybe she was dreaming about flying, because usually we hold her up like this, and you play around with the cats and fly. So maybe she was like dreaming about flying, and I kind of tapped into her dreams, and that's my only true experience from this.
Well, I had an experience that I can't explain. Maybe maybe you guys can get your take on it. But I just come home from work about 2:00 in the morning, and it was just me. My wife was at work still, and I just sat down in front of the computer, no lights on, just the computer screen. And our cat was lying in the hallway in front of the door, underneath on the mat there, the doormat, and sleeping. And I'm just aimlessly sort of looking at the net. And this is back in the heyday of the internet, when we had so much fun and no restrictions and all that kind of stuff. You could like search endlessly and find the weirdest things. All of a sudden there was this huge burst of light. Like it almost like the light or energy imploded. And I said, okay, maybe, just something from outside coming in. But what really got me thinking was the cat was reacting and looking up in that direct area and like panicking. What the hell just happened, sort of thing. So I'm like, okay, that's not, me thinking, something did happen, because the cat did experience it too, because it's reacting to it. And, me trying to look at, rationalize. I'm sure maybe, the light short circuit, light bulb burst, whatever. Nothing. Everything was fine. The light was fine. The switches were fine. The fuses were fine. And okay. So what do you guys think? What do you like? Because it was the strangest thing.
Seeing like an orb in your house. I mean, it
wasn't really an orb. It was just like an implosion of light. It just like it's like light being sucked and gone.
There's several things I've heard about these before. And there's something called ball lightning, which is supposedly it's been explained as a meteorological phenomenon, except no one knows exactly how it works. No one knows exactly what causes ball lightning.
Okay.
Usually it occurs during thunderstorms or just before thunderstorms, but you get like a big glowing ball or like you say, a large implosion of light like you talk about. But no one knows exactly how that happens because normal lightning is nothing like that. It's just a weird thing. I mean, but the fact that cat could see it too indicates that that's a physical object of some kind. It's so I can't really say for sure. On the could I say something about sleep paralysis? Because
yeah. Go.
Sleep paralysis. That people like the figure I saw. I've only seen like 2 or 3 times when I've seen weird things in my sleep paralysis. Normally I just look around me and everything looks normal. It didn't bother me. I've had it my whole life. I just sort of like wait and eventually I wake up. But every so often I did see a figure with a long black cloak and a hood, big black cloak, like those things in Lord of the Rings, the Nazgul. And it just stands there. It was just standing there in the room looking at me, size of an average man. I also saw, I've seen a couple of other strange things. Now, people who have sleep paralysis, often they do report very frightening experiences involving creatures, such as the one I saw. But also there's several beings that look like shadows. And one is like a big broad-brimmed hat, like a cowboy's hat. There's also the most frightening of all appears to be what they call the old hag. This is a very ugly and elderly-looking woman with a very, very foul, distorted, lined face. Now she wears a dirty, ragged dress, a black dress usually, and a broad-brimmed hat with a point at the top. And oddly enough, this is the Hollywood image of the witch.
Yeah.
Of Oz, I find very strange. You wonder where they get their ideas from. But this creature is very violent. It can hit you. It sits on top of you and suffocate. Some people feel suffocated. It can even sexually abuse you, whether you're a man or a woman. This what's odd is, I mean, what I said about the aliens and UFOs counts for sleep paralysis because people from all over the world have sleep paralysis. People from lots of cultures, lots of different religions, lots of different racial groups have these experiences, and they report the same phenomena, the same types of beings. Now, again, you've got to ask the question, are these manifestations of the brain under certain states of consciousness? If so, why? Why is every human brain hardwired to produce the same image? And if more likely is that these altered states of consciousness that come from the sleep paralysis experience actually allow them to see something objectively real. That's far more likely, I think.
It's like the incubus and succubus is what you're referring to, Ben?
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously the connection. Some people, going back to Fred mentioned ghosts and his being skeptical, and I agree. I'm skeptical with a lot of stuff when it comes to the paranormal. But I mean, the theory. There's obviously the one theory out there that in fact ghosts are in fact visitors from another planet, if you will, aliens, and there's that connection. Have you guys heard that connection?
Well, I mean, you have the Jan Keel writes about it like you put everything under the same umbrella. Ghosts, cryptids, UFOs. It's like part. It's the part of the phenomenon. It's all the same. It depends on who's looking at it. And I'm not a stranger to that idea. There is similarities. I mean, it's been brought up numerous times about. Fairies and elves, in comparison to aliens and same kind of behavior and experience around them. And yeah, absolutely. I'm maybe, but then again, I have no idea. It's like, it could be whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Ben?
It is interesting, actually, how you do get different kinds of paranormal phenomena together in the same place at the same time, like at Point Pleasant, as John Keel, which indicates there may be a connection. But also it indicates that what I often find is maybe we also generically categorize certain things under a certain umbrella term when they're actually more than one different phenomenon. For example, ghosts might be more than just one thing or another. What we call ghosts might be different things. I mean, there are different kinds of ghosts. I mean, for example, it could be that they are literally what we're seeing, something that is from another world, which we see under certain states of consciousness and can perceive. I saw a little boy kneeling on the floor of my bedroom once when I woke up suddenly. I saw this little boy, and he was like a translucent body. I could see through him, and he just slowly faded away. It was almost like I was seeing something that maybe from another world. It could have all been in my head, but then I've said that, you know, people, if it's all in your head, why do people keep having seeing the same things? There's also ghosts that people do encounter. The classic ghost, which is someone who's died, someone who's dead, and then they appear. This could be some kind of spirit communication from the afterlife. Or it could be that this person is present in another universe and is still alive in another universe, and under certain circumstances, maybe caused by grief or even by their own spirit. If you want to put one of that word, they manifest that other universal self within your own perception. That's just a theory. I don't know if that's true.
Alex. Alex wants to say something.
Well, no, there's a couple of questions in chat.
Okay,
the first one's from John Doe. This is going back to the implant issue. Ben, he's asking, do you have any problems with airport security?
No. Okay. I've flown several times since then, and I've had none.
Okay. And the second question from Gary, he's asking, what do you think of the British UFO cases investigated by Tony Dodd about the lightning plane that crashed into the North Sea, UFO related?
Oh, I've got the book actually, Alien Investigator. I don't know. I mean, what was the name of the pilot? I can't remember. But it was a plane, yeah. He apparently, just before the crash, he reported seeing something strange, the pilot. I don't have all the details, but if I remember rightly, there was something a bit odd about it. Yeah. I don't know if they ever found the plane or the pilot, the wreckage of the body.
That's another thing. Planes and the amount of interactions they've had with UFOs, right? I mean, look at the U.S. Navy.
There's Fred Valentich as well. That's a very tragic case. Are you familiar with that one?
Sorry, which one?
Fred Valentich.
Oh yeah.
He we don't know what happened to him, but he was a pilot, a young man in Australia who was flying over the sea and vanished. I mean, it could be that after reporting a UFO, it could be that the presence of the UFO caused the plane to crash into the sea and it just sank without trace. Or it could be that he was literally taken. We don't know. But he never arrived at the airport he was heading for. No one ever saw him again.
Missing in action. There's so many cases and that's another thing. Some of the classic sort of timestamps and time loss. I mean, what do you figure it equates to? I mean, what is the point? Your thoughts on the overall picture of why these experiences unfold. Why are these visitations happening? What is it that you kind of figure they travel literally millions of miles to come here for what?
Well, one of my favorite personalities out there, John E.L. Tenney, often says that he feels that the phenomenon is there to stimulate us, to make us more curious, to make us explore things. it doesn't necessarily have a purpose or a meaning, except making us do things, making us think, making us, try to see life and existence beyond this reality somehow. It's like a trigger of the imagination, I tend to see it like that, I'm not trying to find purpose with everything, because I feel we might never find an answer to the things going on out there. I'm just personally just trying to enjoy it, because I feel it gives me something. Well, that's how I mean, that's my stance on it, at least, I mean, it's there to stimulate our existence, basically, and I feel that's pretty nice, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's intriguing, to say the least. It's incredible when you like read about these incidents and you hear about these incidents, even if it's somebody's personal experience. And like, I mean, I know I've had my experience, not an encounter, but an experience where I had spotted what looked, seemingly like a UFO, if anything. It just makes you wonder, and Alex, we've mentioned it a million times, had a similar experience with what I saw. It just makes you wonder. I mean,
and this was years apart, mind you, just so for those listeners who are new or haven't heard the stories, the experiences Steve and I had are similar, but they were very years apart. Like a lot of years apart.
Like I believe mine was 2004.
Yeah, mine was probably 2013, 14, around there.
But yeah, Ben, I'm telling you, man, you've got me all freaked out now with this implant.
Yeah. on the subject, I could go on. I don't know what kind of add about that, but on the subject of why they're here and things like that, it could be that they are doing this. They're doing something for us. They appear to be aware of us. This phenomenon. It interacts with us.
Yeah.
There's communication, whether it's phantom or UFO or something else. For example, but aliens often do talk to their abductees or contactees, and they do so. It's usually a mind-to-mind transference. Occasionally, they do speak. They seem to be able to speak any language. And they say they often talk to the contactee about why they're doing what they're doing. Sometimes they say things like, "Well, they're often concerned about the welfare of people and the earth. They're concerned about war, the dangers of military action, and environmental damage." They often say that. They've often said that. They appear to have a wide variety of agendas, and so they depending on what alien you are, and there's lots and lots of different aliens. I mean, there's virtually a taxonomy of them, of different sized greys and mantids and reptiles and Nordics and things. They appear to have a wide variety of agendas. They exhibit many, many different kinds of behavior. Some are very, very nice, the ones Mary Rodwell deals with. A minority seem to be unpleasant and harmful, but the majority just seem to be observing us. They appear to be interested in us. It's almost like they're studying us. They're here on some kind of fact-finding mission. That's the nearest I can gather to what they're doing.
And it's scary to think that, in my mind, anyways. It's scary to think that, because when I look at us as a race and go and our level of intelligence and how far we've sort of come over the years in such a short period of time, but we're so archaic still when you think of these technologies and these crafts and beings, if you will, that are reported or encountered, that they would come here to sort of examine our plain carbon-based lifestyle.
I suppose, yeah. And they've been doing it for a long time, haven't they? I mean,
Yeah.
as I said, it goes back a long, long way through history. So it's a question I don't have all the answers for. I really don't.
No, I don't think anybody does.
But I'm glad they are here. I'm glad we do live in a world where there are these really amazing, curious things to look into, because it does, as Fred was saying, it is a gift in a way.
It adds intrigue. It adds intrigue. I mean, I wish I would love to have another sort of experience with something like I did, those many years ago, because that was very intriguing. Unfortunately, I don't know if you had a chance to see the footage, Fred, that I sent you. I think I sent you the link.
Yeah, I've seen it, but as you mentioned, before you said it was like I wasn't sure what to look at. But
it's very hard. It's like in between the traffic lights, and in between you just see the orange sort of object, and it's like I said, 2004. I had an old flip phone. And the camera on there just absolutely sucked. So, and by the time I got home to grab, my video cam, it was too late. They had disappeared.
Get out there with an HD quality camera.
If you know what, if it's like capturing good footage of Bigfoot. Come on. No more of the grainy, shaky style footage. We're gonna get some nice, clean, crisp 4K.
Yeah, and you'd be accused. The thing is, then you'd be accused of faking it.
Yeah,
exactly.
You can't win.
You can't win. You can't win. You got lousy footage. It's crap. Oh, the footage is too clean. Yeah, you can't win. You're absolutely right, Ben. Well, guys, thank you for coming on this evening. And unfortunately, Cameron wasn't able to stay. He had an emergency to tend to. But guys, once again, just get your info out there for people who are watching and then later on listening on Sunday night, this will rebroadcast on the New Visions Radio Network, by the way. So just get your info out there for people who might want to check out your stuff. And obviously, Fred's got his book coming out soon, later on this year, maybe, hopefully. No, I can't wait, Fred.
Yeah.
I really can't.
Yeah, now I don't want to hype it now. It will come out when it comes out. Okay. Is there? Yeah, Steve. I might send you a PDF of it a bit earlier, so you can, maybe you can see, if it's too much Swinglish. I want it to be
Swinglish.
Swinglish.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I remember during the year, during the old years, Cinema Nocturna, and you used to write reviews for us, and you were kind of, well, I don't like my reviews because you're afraid of your English, and I go, oh, man, you write better English than a lot of these guys who are born to read and write English.
Oh, thank you. But as you asked, join me on Twitter, Homo Satanis, or Instagram, Homo Satanis, or Instagram, Schmollywood Babylon, but it's just movies, horror movies and stuff. So.
And I'll say it again, if you're looking for a good movie, Fred, he'll recommend it. He will. He'll find it. Ben, get your stuff out there.
Sure, yeah. This book, you'll like this book if you like UFO things. Roswell Rising, a novel of disclosure. There are 2 sequels now, so it's a trilogy. My website, Hapanmo, which is Hospital Porters Against the New World Order. And if you just put that into Google, I've got so much on there that I've got my own radio show, my own YouTube channel, There's my fiction blog and things like that. So there's an awful lot there to keep you going for a while.
And I have to grab those last two books, Ben, because like I said, I can say it a million times. I love the first one. So
hope you like these other two.
And guys, on Cameron's behalf, do check out his podcast. Excellent podcast. If you're into UFO and that realm and everything else, he's had a lot of really, really interesting guests on. And once again, that's My Alien Life. You can get it anywhere, pretty much. Spotify, I believe on he said on YouTube. YouTube and Apple and all over the place. So check it out. Really cool podcast. Guys, take care and thanks again.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
Yes, thanks everybody for joining us this evening too. Guys, take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night.
Good evening.